Hey everybody, thanks for logging on, and I have an interesting video that some of y'all may be looking forward to see. It's a video about large watches on people with smaller wrists. I did a previous video talking about the IWC Pilot Chronograph and the Rolex Explorer 2, the newer one, and kind of talked about how those watches sat on people with smaller wrists. This video is specifically about Panerai. I'm a big Panerai fan. I think the brand is really undervalued, and I think their watches are really awesome. But I think one thing that keeps people away from Panerai maybe, or makes them a little bit nervous to try the watches, is this idea that these are large watches. And certainly, a Panerai is not a subtle watch. It's a purpose-built, historically accurate watch. And it has a very specific and unique style. I think a lot of people like the style, but a lot of people may be turned off by the idea that, oh my God, I could not even try that watch on. I mean, it's just too big for me. And so I wanted to talk about that a little bit. In order to do that, I have a Rolex Explorer. This is a 16800 Rolex Explorer, just a 40 millimeter watch. And men's size watch, classically sized, but nobody anywhere would say that this is a large watch. In fact, considering men's watches nowadays, this is kind of like a mid-size men's watch, because the new Submariner is coming in at, I think, 41 millimeters, and those lugs on that watch are massive. Anyway, so this is a 40 millimeter Rolex 16800, and just for illustration purposes. And so, like I said, standard men's sizing. And then the other watch I have to compare it to is this. This is a Panerai base model. It's the reference 000. It's got a tiny logo right here, just above the 6 o'clock marker. Just a basic two-handed Panerai. Just an awesome classic watch. So let's put this back on the wrist, and then let me just explain why I have these watches out. Why I have this piece of paper and why I use this pen. So what I did on this piece of paper is I put these watches like this, and I just made a mark at the top and the bottom of the lugs so we can visually see it. So this mark and this mark is the Rolex Submariner, the 16800, the 40 millimeter model. And then from this mark to this mark is the Panerai 44 millimeter Luminor model. And there's just a minimal difference. It's not as if it's oh my God, those lugs are just enormous. They're going to hang over your wrist. If you can wear this watch, and believe me, anybody can wear a 40 millimeter Rolex Sport model, then you can wear a anybody can wear a 40 millimeter Rolex Sport model, then you can wear a 44 millimeter Panerai Luminor model. And so, like I said, just take a look at that. And so you can kind of get beyond sort of, what people regurgitate on forums or on the internet, and really see for yourself that there's really not much of a difference. And, when you see the watch on my wrist, believe me when I say if I can wear a watch, anybody can. I have small wrists. But, the watch looks large, but it looks purposely large. And I think one thing when it comes to Panerai that make them seem larger than they are is, instead of the Rolex, which is sort of more pulled down at the lugs, and then you have this outcropping of the actual dial, the Panerai is built much more like a cushion or like a square. And the crown guard is very large too, which adds to the size. The watch is thick, but I don't know. I mean, it's a little bit thicker than this Rolex, but not substantially so. You see the Rolex here, and then you see the Panerai. I mean, it's a pretty thin watch. I'm not saying that the Panerai isn't a large watch. It certainly is. But what I would tell you is that if you've held off on trying Panerai or looking at these watches because of this perceived notion that you've read over and over again that, oh my God, Panerai are large watches, you can't pull that off. It's just not true, especially whenever you compare it to watches that are universally considered to be, small watches or mid-sized watches like this, 40 millimeter Rolex. Anyway, you know, no apologies. I am a big fan of Panerai watches. I think they're really undervalued. I think they offer so much style. I think they offer you so much quality for such a small price, comparatively. Now, of course, you know, watches are still expensive, but I am not kidding you when I tell you I got three 44 millimeter Luminors for the same price as one, you know, modern Rolex Submariner. And, you know, listen, the Sub is awesome. The Sub is, you know, arguably a better watch, but man, I would much rather have three Panerai that are interesting, unique. You don't see them around on everybody's wrist, you know, versus like, you know, just Sub's a great watch. Listen, Sub's a great watch. It's a classic watch. Nobody's arguing that. But all I would tell you is that Panerai is a great brand to look into. I really like mine. I love wearing this watch. I think it looks really cool. It exudes a lot of style, and it's just, you know, whenever you see the watch, whenever you wear the watch, it always brings a smile on my face. Anyway, like I said, as usual, I'm rambling, but the last video I made talking about larger watches on people with smaller wrists got, you know, some pretty positive feedback. And so I wanted to make this video about Panerai and maybe open some people's eyes, open some doors to people to try out this brand. Anyway.